And if you notice, you pay attention to movies or childhood stories or fairy tales, one of the things you may notice, or even comic books, you may notice that the bad guy is always some rich person. That the bad guy in many stories is always some rich person who has a whole lot of money and they're just a bad person. Whether it's a cartoon, let me think of some examples. So, for example, there used to be a cartoon back in the day called DuckTales. And in DuckTales, one of the main characters was this guy named Scrooge McDuck. And he was like the old grandfather, patriarch of the family. So this is the patriarchy, which they were painted as a negative thing. And he had all this money, and he was just this miser who never wanted to give anybody any of his money. He was just swimming around in his basement full of gold coins all day, every day. He was the bad guy, and he had a whole bunch of money. In the movie Ocean's 11, not the original Ocean's 11 from back in the day, but the contemporary version with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. Who was the bad guy in that movie? He was a rich guy who owned a whole bunch of casinos, and he was the bad guy. The bad guy in many stories is often a guy who has a whole bunch of money because they are training you, they are conditioning you to think that having a whole bunch of money is a negative thing. All right, this is part of the programming that a whole lot of people are given that many of you don't even realize this programming is happening. The programming is a head of a family patriarch is a negative guy and is a bad thing. This is one of the reasons why so many people are preaching again about destroying the patriarchy. Another one is that people who have a whole lot of money are just negative and bad people. That's another reason why people are on this whole eat the rich and tax the rich and the 1% of the bad guys and 99% of the good guys. These are all things that are being programmed into you. And if you think this is not affecting you subconsciously and leading to your actual actions, then you are sorely mistaken. It is. This is programming you and controlling you in many ways. So the rich person is always the enemy of the masses, and Elon Musk is pretty much known as a rich guy. I think maybe right now publicly noted as the richest person in America, maybe even on the planet. So that's one reason why they hate Elon Musk. Let's move on to the next reason.